How to increase the value of yourself. 1. The illusion of growth, extended version. You've been running, achieving, hustling, saying yes like it's a mantra. Promotions, praise, packed schedules, and polished social media posts, all signs that you're doing well. People admire you. They ask for your secret. But in the quiet moments, something whispers inside. This can't be it. You brush it off. You keep going. You keep collecting check marks on a list that was never yours to begin with. You smile through exhaustion, confuse productivity with purpose, and wear business like a badge of honor. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, the cracks begin to show. You realize you're performing in a life that was written by others. Parents, teachers, bosses, influencers. The world told you, this is what value looks like. And you believed it. Until now. The twist comes like a quiet earthquake. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And that whisper is the first truth you've heard in years. Maybe success isn't about doing more. Maybe it's about doing what actually matters to you. And suddenly, the illusion shatters. You see that you've been measuring your worth by someone else's ruler. The goals you chased weren't rooted in passion or purpose. They were rooted in fear. Fear of falling behind. Fear of being ordinary. Fear of disappointing everyone but yourself. That's when the first true question emerges, not about money, achievement, or applause. But what do I value? And who am I when I'm not trying to impress anyone? That's not just the beginning of change. It's the end of the illusion. 2. The Great Unlearning, extended version. The dust has barely settled from the shattering realization of the last episode. The rush of doubt and uncertainty is still fresh, leaving you feeling adrift, like a ship that has lost its course. You've come face to face with the truth that the life you've been chasing might not be your own. And now you don't know who you are without it. So, what comes next? You start to question everything. The books you read, the mentors you followed, the friends you thought had your back, all of it starts to feel hollow. The confidence you built over the years feels fragile, built on the shifting sands of approval and external validation. Each day, a question presses deeper into your soul. Who was I trying to impress? The worst part? You realize you didn't even know you were playing a game. The constant hustle, the rush to be more, to be better, it was all part of a system that never asked you what you wanted. You were playing by someone else's rules, wearing someone else's expectations, chasing a version of success that wasn't yours. And now it feels like you're standing in the ruins of your own identity. But in that destruction, something begins to rise from the ashes, a quiet, yet defiant thought. What if I could rewrite this story? What if the persona I thought I had to be isn't the real me at all? So, you start to unlearn. You take off the masks. You let go of the armor you've been wearing to shield yourself from failure. And at first, it feels like an overwhelming loss, a death of the person you've spent so much time trying to become. The real truth is far more painful than you imagined. You built yourself around the world's idea of success, not your own truth. And it never really fit. The Great Unlearning isn't just about letting go of others' expectations. It's about undoing the belief that you're only valuable if you fit in. It's the painful acceptance that everything you thought defined you, your job title, your achievements, your relationships, were just markers in someone else's game. But now, you get to choose whether you even want to play. This is the part where you crack open. The foundation is weak, and there's nothing left to hold on to. You feel vulnerable, exposed. But in that raw space, for the first time in a long while, you begin to hear your own voice. You start to ask, who am I without the labels? And the truth hits you like a flood. You are more than you ever thought. 3. Mirror, extended version. The quiet aftermath of unlearning has left you standing in front of the most intimidating mirror you've ever faced, not the one that shows your reflection, but the one that forces you to look at the truth behind the mask you've worn for so long. You've stripped away the external noise, the validation, the expectations, the chase, and now, in this new silence, you face the one thing you've avoided your whole life: yourself. At first, it's a shock. You don't recognize the person staring back. The face is familiar, but the eyes? They're full of something you can't quite name: fear. The fear of what you might discover. The fear of seeing just how far you've drifted from your true self. In those eyes, you sense the years of pretending, of playing roles that never felt like yours, of acting out someone else's script. You want to look away. You want to turn and run, to bury yourself in the comfort of old habits and distractions. But you stay. The reflection doesn't change. You have to confront it. The person staring back at you is, in many ways, a stranger, but in other ways, they're exactly who you've always been. The truth is, you've been afraid to meet this person for too long. And then, it happens. You start to see the cracks, real, ugly cracks in your self-image. The insecurities you've spent years covering up, pretending don't exist, begin to bubble to the surface. Your flaws become glaringly obvious, like a spotlight on everything you've tried to hide: the self-doubt, the anxiety, the shame. Your body, your past mistakes, your fears, they're all right there, impossible to ignore. But here's the plot twist you weren't expecting. As you look deeper, you don't just see the flaws. You begin to see the potential, the parts of you that have always been there, quietly waiting to be recognized. The potential to change, to grow, to break free from the prison you built around yourself. For the first time, you're not just seeing your flaws, you're seeing the possibility of who you can be. You realize, in a moment of pure revelation, that you don't hate your flaws. You hate the idea of being seen for who you truly are, the messy, imperfect, and vulnerable version of yourself. What you fear isn't the flaws themselves, but the vulnerability that comes with allowing others to see you as you really are. And this, right here, is the moment when the first breakthrough happens. It's not a magical transformation. It's not an overnight shift. But for the first time, you begin to see your own humanity, the messy parts, the unfinished parts, the broken pieces, and realize that it's all part of what makes you whole. And suddenly, the idea of vulnerability doesn't feel like a weakness. It feels like strength. The real twist in this episode isn't just about accepting your flaws. It's about understanding that they don't define you. They're just the starting point for something more authentic, something deeper. It's about accepting that you're not perfect, and that's exactly what makes you real. In that mirror, you stop seeing a stranger. You start seeing a person with infinite potential, a person who's worth loving, even by you. And that's the most important revelation of all. 4. Burnout and betrayal, extended version. The weight of all the unlearning has left you exhausted. The path you've started walking, truth, vulnerability, self-reflection, isn't easy. In fact, it's downright painful. You've torn down the old walls that defined you, only to find the spaces beneath are bare and fragile. The internal work is a constant battle. You can no longer numb the pain of self-doubt, but you also can't escape it. And then, it happens. You crash. It starts with a whisper, an internal voice begging for rest, but you ignore it. You push on, telling yourself that real change requires sacrifice. You tell yourself that everything, this newfound life, this transformation, comes with a price. But the cost is far higher than you anticipated. The pressure mounts, the expectations, both yours and others, become too much. Burnout sets in slowly, like the tide creeping higher and higher, until one day you wake up to find yourself drowning in a sea of exhaustion, overwhelm, and resentment. You're physically drained, mentally depleted, spiritually empty. You've been pleasing everyone but yourself, trying to live up to the expectations of friends, family, and colleagues. You're tired of pretending to have it all together. The perfect version of you that you were trying so hard to build has become a stranger you no longer recognize, and you've lost yourself completely. In the midst of all this, something deeper begins to happen. Your support system begins to crumble. People you thought would always be there, friends, family, colleagues, start to disappear. They don't understand the shift happening within you. They still expect the version of you that worked tirelessly, that said yes to every request, that wore the mask of perfection. But you've changed. You can't go back. And they too can't keep up with this version of you, so they fade, one by one. The very people you leaned on, the ones who helped you build your false identity, now become part of your emotional downfall. You've outgrown them. But they don't understand that they were never part of your real journey. Here's the twist, though. The moment everything crumbles, you realize that the very betrayal you feel, the abandonment, the loss, the isolation, is your salvation. This breakdown is, in fact, your breakthrough. You've been living your life to meet the expectations of others for so long. But now, in the quiet aftermath of your emotional collapse, something profound happens. For the first time, you feel liberated. The masks have been torn off, the distractions have been stripped away, and you are left with one undeniable truth. You're still here. And you're still worth fighting for. You learn that it wasn't the approval of others that made you valuable. It was the inner strength to stand alone, to rebuild, to rise from the ashes of everything that was never truly yours. You realize that the deepest form of growth comes from letting go of the familiar, even when it hurts, even when it feels like betrayal. And from that place of pain, you slowly begin to rebuild yourself, not as a reflection of what others want you to be, but as the person you were always meant to become. The question now isn't, how do I get back to who I was? It's, who am I when I'm free from all of this? The breakdown is far from the end. It's just the beginning. 5. The power of no extended version. The silence after the storm is deafening. The world outside continues at its chaotic pace, unaware that you've just had the most pivotal moment of your life. In the aftermath of your breakdown, you begin to rebuild, but this time, you do it differently. This time, you don't just say yes to everything and everyone. This time, you say no. At first, it's terrifying. The fear of disappointing others, the fear of letting people down, the anxiety that creeps in when you realize just how many people have come to depend on the version of you that always pleases them. It's paralyzing. But something inside you is beginning to shift. You start to realize that saying no isn't a weakness. It's a form of self-respect. You begin to experiment with it. It starts small, declining invitations to events you know will drain you, setting boundaries with people who've overstepped, saying no to work that doesn't align with your values. The first few times, the guilt is overwhelming. The guilt of not living up to expectations, the guilt of disappointing people, the guilt of being perceived as selfish. But each no brings something unexpected, empowerment. With every rejection, you feel more in control of your life, more in control of your energy. Each boundary you set feels like a small victory, a small reclaiming of yourself. And slowly, you begin to realize that the more you say no, the more you're able to say yes to the things that truly matter. But here's the twist. As you grow into this new version of yourself, something profound begins to happen. The people around you start reacting. Some are surprised, others angry, and some even distant. Your no isn't just a rejection of their demands. It's a challenge to the very way they've seen you. To them, you're becoming someone they no longer understand. And that's where the true power lies. For the first time, you're no longer trying to be who they want you to be. You're starting to step into your own skin. It's a terrifying realization. You're growing apart from the people you once tried so hard to please, but it's also the most liberating thing that's ever happened to you. The reactions are as varied as the people themselves. Some people push back harder, using guilt and manipulation to try to reel you back into the old version of yourself. But others, surprisingly, start to respect you more. They begin to see that your boundaries are a reflection of your self-worth, and in that, they learn to value you differently. You've taught them that love and respect don't come from endless sacrifice. They come from knowing your own limits and honoring them. Here's the deeper twist. Saying no becomes a path to your authentic self. It's not just a tool to protect your time. It's a statement about who you are. Each boundary is a declaration that you value yourself, and you no longer measure your worth by how much you're willing to sacrifice for others. You realize that to grow into the person you've always been meant to be, you must first make space for that person to exist. The people who love you will respect your no. The ones who don't, they'll fall away. And as painful as it is to see them go, you understand that it's not your job to keep them around. You can't pour from an empty cup. So, you continue to say no, not out of spite, but out of a profound love for yourself. It's in this space, in this newfound power of refusal, that you start to grow in ways you never imagined. 6. Alone, not lonely, extended version. The world has changed around you. People have come and gone, and with each passing moment, you feel more and more isolated. You've made difficult choices that cut ties, set boundaries, and redefined relationships. The people who once filled your life with noise and distractions are no longer there, and for the first time, you are completely, undeniably alone. At first, the silence is deafening. You expect it to crush you, to swallow you whole. You wait for the loneliness to come, that familiar ache of yearning for connection, for the warmth of others. But it doesn't come, not in the way you expected. Instead, something completely unexpected happens. You begin to enjoy the silence. You start filling your days with things that nourish you, reading, writing, walking, meditating, creating. Without the pressure of always being on, always living up to someone else's expectations, you discover that the moments you once feared, those moments of solitude, are actually where your most profound growth happens. At first, you might question it. Is this really okay? You've always been taught that you need others to thrive, to be seen and validated, to find your worth. But now, you're alone. You're not seeking validation from anyone. And the strange thing is, you feel more whole than ever. Here's the twist. The isolation that once terrified you becomes your sanctuary. You start to realize that being alone doesn't mean being abandoned. It means being whole. This isn't a sad, lonely existence. It's peace. The peace that comes from knowing that you don't need anyone's approval. The peace that comes from listening to your own heart, trusting your own voice, and having the space to follow your own path without interference. It's here, in this stillness, that you learn something radical. You are enough. You don't need constant distractions, constant noise, or constant companionship to feel valuable. Your worth isn't defined by others' presence. It's defined by your own ability to be at peace with yourself, to embrace the quiet, and to live authentically without needing anyone else to complete you. But the twist doesn't stop there. As you settle into this newfound sense of self, something surprising happens. People begin to notice. At first, it's subtle. A comment here, a question there, a sudden request for your time or energy. You, who once bent over backward to meet everyone else's needs, now seem to radiate a sense of calm and confidence that others crave. You've become the kind of person others want to be around, but you're no longer chasing after their approval. It's the strangest feeling. You've learned to be alone without feeling lonely, and in that process, you've become the most attractive version of yourself. Not because of anything you've done, but because of the way you've learned to embrace yourself fully. And here's the deeper twist. In this solitude, you begin to realize that true connection doesn't come from external validation. It comes from being authentically you, no matter who is watching. When you stop seeking approval and start living for your own fulfillment, people are naturally drawn to you. They want to be around the person who is at peace with themselves, who radiates authenticity, and who doesn't need anything from them to feel whole. Solitude has become your greatest ally. You've learned that the quiet is not something to fear. It's the place where you rediscover who you really are and where your most powerful transformations take place. And with this knowledge, you are stronger than ever. Alone but never lonely. Whole without needing anyone to complete you. 7. Rewriting the script, extended version. The world is watching, but this time you're no longer performing. You've stepped off the stage of expectations, out of the shadows of what others thought you should be. What started as a quiet rebellion against a life lived for others has blossomed into a full transformation. And now, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. It wasn't always easy. The road was filled with moments of doubt, of fear, of wondering whether you were making the right choices. But now, looking back, you see the beauty in the struggle. The pain, the isolation, the rejection, all of it was necessary for you to get here. And here is where you find yourself, standing taller, stronger, and more confident than ever before. The twist? You've stopped chasing after titles, likes, and validation. Once, you craved recognition. You wanted the world to see your worth, to acknowledge your hard work. But now, you've come to understand something profound. Your value doesn't come from external sources. It comes from within. You no longer need the approval of others to know who you are or what you're capable of. So, you rewrite your script. You stop following the rules that others set for you. No longer are you living by the metrics of success that society has taught you to measure yourself by. You don't need a promotion to prove your worth, and you don't need the applause of an audience to validate your efforts. You define success on your own terms. You ask yourself, what really matters to me? What kind of life do I want to create? Not based on what others think is valuable, but on what truly brings me joy, fulfillment, and peace. The twist here is a game changer. You stop caring about the opinions of others. Sure, there will always be people who question your choices, people who don't understand your new path. But you've reached a place where their opinions hold little weight. The need to fit in has fallen away. You don't need anyone's permission to live your life the way you want. What comes next is even more unexpected. People who once ignored you, people who once saw you as just another face in the crowd, suddenly begin to take notice. They start asking you questions, seeking your advice, admiring your courage. They want to know your secret. But here's the twist. You no longer care to give them an answer. The truth is, you don't need their approval anymore. You've found something much more valuable: self-respect, self-reliance, and an unwavering sense of your own worth. You've broken free from the need for validation. You've realized that the most powerful thing you can do is live your truth, unapologetically, and without compromise. And here's where the real twist hits. The people who once rejected you, ignored you, or judged you are now the ones trying to catch up. They want to know how you did it. They see the peace in your eyes, the confidence in your step, the way you no longer bend to their expectations. They want what you've found, and you're no longer giving it away. You've discovered that your true power doesn't come from others. It comes from the freedom to live by your own rules, to write your own story. And now, as you look ahead, you know that the journey isn't about becoming who they think you should be. It's about becoming the person you've always been inside, bold, confident, and whole. You're no longer asking for permission to live your life. You're rewriting the script, and this time, it's all on your terms. 8. The final reveal, extended version. The final chapter has arrived. You stand in front of the world, not as the person you used to be, not as the one who once feared rejection or sought validation, but as the person you have become. The journey that began with confusion, frustration, and endless striving has led you to this moment of undeniable clarity. The twist here is nothing short of a revelation. The value you sought to prove to others was never for them, it was for you. All those years spent chasing approval, accolades, and outward success were not about being seen or admired. They were about you trying to see and accept yourself. And now, after all the trials, the breakdowns, the transformations, you finally see the truth. You were always valuable. You just had to learn to believe it yourself. The crowd may still be there. The world may still judge, still measure, still compare. But you no longer care. You've stopped defining yourself by their metrics. You no longer need their applause or their acknowledgement because you have already given it to yourself. The most surprising twist? The thing you thought would make you truly valuable, the external recognition, the power, the money, has become secondary to the peace and self-respect you've gained. You've reached the peak of personal growth, not by fulfilling the expectations of others, but by completely redefining what success and value mean to you. You have become your own definition of success. And that success is not measured by how many followers you have, how much money you earn, or how much recognition you receive. Your success is defined by your ability to be at peace with yourself, to live authentically, to embrace every flaw and strength, to honor your own worth without seeking the approval of anyone else. And now, you stand at the crossroads of your life. You are not the product of hustle and grind anymore. You are the product of healing, of knowing who you are without needing the validation of the world. You have reclaimed your power, and in doing so, you've unlocked the most valuable gift of all, your true self. As you look out at the world, you realize that this is just the beginning. You've reached the final reveal, but the true journey has only just begun. The twist here is that the world may never fully understand the transformation you've gone through. And it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that you understand. You know who you are, what you're worth, and the kind of life you want to live. And that's all that matters. Now, you walk through the world not as someone trying to prove their value, but as someone who already knows their worth. And as you move forward, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey of staying true to yourself, day after day, with the unwavering belief that you are enough. You have rewritten the script of your life. The final reveal is not just a moment, it's your whole existence, shining with the brilliance of someone who has finally embraced their true power. And the world will never be the same again. This is the final episode, the culmination of your personal transformation, a journey from self-doubt to self-empowerment, from chasing external validation to discovering that the only approval that truly matters is your own. Let me know if you'd like to dive deeper into any part of this transformation or need more insight into the character's journey.